Hey guys, so we got another build, and this is a bow build. So since I am a pretty big bow guy, naturally this is gonna be something that I will be starting, or at least I'll try to. And for once, we're not gonna be playing LA into tornado shot, so that's some change. Anyway, this build is Scourge Arrow. Scourge Arrow got buffed a little bit, but it's a cool skill, right? People like the well, not a lot of people like it, but the menace Scourge Arrow is also very good. The clear on these things is insane, and with so many so much projectile speed that I'm stacking on this character, it's very likely that all 5 pods, as well as all the returning projectiles, will be hitting the main target for single target damage as well. So not only do we have great map clear, we also have probably pretty good single target clear, as you can rack up to a total of 7 times damage, so 2 times the damage from the main projectile, and then 5 times the damage from the thorn pods, because the thorn pods only deal 50% of the damage. So if the stars align and every single pod and every single projectile hit the main target, that's 7 times damage. But anyway, so this is a bow build, so there's not much craziness going in here. Oh, I guess you don't really need these for the early game. So there's nothing really crazy going on here. If you've seen any of the bow builds, so the tree probably looks pretty familiar, right? These are sort of interchangeable where you start, but it's just standard stuff, right? Not really anything crazy that you can do. One thing that you can get early game is Marlene's Fallacy. Taming is generally, well, people like tamings early on, so they're pretty expensive. Could be like a divine on league start, so probably don't get taming as like your first thing, but potentially go for Marlene's. I'm not sure how expensive they are at league start. I never really buy these at league start, so I don't know. But for this new Saboteur Ascendancy, Marlene's is actually really good because we counteract the less damage with Lucky. I mean, less crit chance with Lucky. And of course, it does also have the unlucky damage with hits. So we're also trying to combat that by prioritizing fire and cold over lightning. So, this... Well, the Scourge Arrow by itself, it just deals a lot of damage. So there's nothing really too crazy that you need to do to make a bow build deal damage, But if you can, get Marlene's Fallacy. It's a lot of damage. So this is the early game tree. Basically, you're just getting the +2 arrows first thing. So the pods are placed a little bit more with a little bit less variance, and then get some crit. If you get the Marlene's Fallacy, you're gonna need a lot of crit, so get all the crit that's on the tree pretty much, and also projectile speed. You do need projectile speed, at least 55%, if I'm not mistaken, increased projectile speed, so the thorn pods can return back to you. But we're getting a lot of projectile speed on this build. So just in the early game, if you take all the nodes and you have like a quiver with some projectile speed, this quiver, I forgot to change it. It's also in the mid game quiver. This is a very solid quiver. You're obviously not gonna have this early game, right? But get projectile speed ideally, and just life or whatever on the early game quiver. But once you grab all the projectile speeds, your thorn arrows will be able to return to you, and you're gonna be dealing a lot of damage. Hopefully. So for the items, I added some very achievable items. This is just 1.5 mod basically, and crafted lightning damage. Try to get fire and cold as your mods and craft on lightning damage, because the unlucky damage really hurts lightning damage. Just like the lucky one really helps out lightning damage, right? So just get some fire, primarily some cold, and do try to balance them, because I have Trinity in here. So early game, do try to get like sort of equal amounts of fire and cold damage, so you can proc Trinity, because realistically lightning will most likely not proc too often as the highest damage type, so prioritize fire and cold. On the helmet, so again, I really like this type of helmet. Like it's very easy to get, and you know, just a couple of shrieking essences and you're good. And it basically lets you add an aura in most scenarios. So I generally tend to go for this first thing uh, with my Eldritch currency. On the body, you can grab whatever. I didn't add anything. It just doesn't really matter, you know. It's just defenses, resistances, whatever. On gloves, do get rage, as rage does give a lot of damage, especially while mapping. You know, you're gonna be firing projectiles left and right, so the rage shouldn't really fall off ever. The boots. So I have ailment avoiding here, preparing. You don't need to, obviously, early game, just get the action speed probably, but you will need to get shock avoidance later on for Storm Shroud. So later on, just get rid of the action speed and get some shock avoidance as well as on the suffix too. Marilyn's Fallacy, Taming, of course, when you can buy it, it's a lot of damage. Although for Taming to be good, well, I mean, it's gonna be good regardless, I guess. So just get Taming whenever you can. Amethyst Ring in here, as per usual, with some stats to so we can use our gems, right? And channeling skills -3 to mana cost, because Scourge Arrow, this one, the basic one, is a channeling skill, so get that because we're reserving a lot, right? And a belt with some strength, ideally heavy belt, so you can max out Steel Skin. Because I do have Steel Skin in here, because we have some cooldown reduction, but it's very likely that this is going to be your last ascendancy point, because it doesn't really do anything, and the rest of the nodes don't really do anything, right? So just save this as your last ascendancy point. Like, you don't even necessarily need to do it, but you do get some move speed, so you know that's nice. And yeah, that is it for the early game. As for the mid game, so mid game's pretty fleshed out, a little bit less freedom of choice for you guys and more direction if this is what you prefer. So we're going for interrogation, Seekers of Suffering, keeping the Marilyn. It's not really worth switching to Yoke. I initially had Yoke as well, but 3.6 with Marilyn is 3.7, so you know it's basically the same, but Marilyn is much cheaper, so just keep Marilyn. And this is some tech that I like to do on some builds that needs some extra reserve. Alternatively, if you don't want to do this, you can also get a mercenary for one of the auras, whichever last you want, you know, anger. Oh, also, you could get the hatred, although hatred won't do much because we have no fizz on our bow, but potentially, you know, to equal out at least a little bit more, you could get the hatred from the mercenary as well. We have a massive thread in here, generally a good spot for bow builds, right? You grab a lot of good value nodes. I have Storm Shroud, as I've said. I didn't add, like, I didn't craft the boots, but you know what I mean. Just get shock resistance. I mean shock avoidance, and you'll get there. And this sort of stays the same. Enemies are blind, so they deal a little bit less damage to us, which is a very nice thing to have on an invasion character, right? Where max hits are generally the problem. As you can see, you know, the elemental max hits are pretty solid. Physmatic hit, of course. All right, for the fix, well, early game you can get fizz to fire, right, on the body if you want. In the mid game, I do recommend Hyrie, although these are generally like up to 10 divines. Early game, I mean early into the league, so it's gonna be pretty expensive. Fledgling, so people need to run heist. But once you do get fledgling, it's a lot of damage, and also thorn pods will pretty much always hit, even if they're close to you, because the line where it says projectiles can collide at close range, so it's not actually the distance between you and the target, it's the distance of the projectile traveled. So all returning projectiles will hit, and the thorn pods should pretty much always also hit as well, because it's only 2 meters that they need to travel. For the belt, you have freedom of choice. You know, your mage bloods, your headhunters, if you want. There's a bunch of prism weave. Early game could also be pretty solid. It's like 10% damage or something like that. So, you know, freedom of choice. Alternatively, resists, stats, things like that, right? Timeless, Jewel, Lethal Pride, of course. There's a lot of nodes that we have in here, so you know you can benefit quite well from these. Do you look for an Intimidate on one of these? I think I have it somewhere in here. Yeah, there's Intimidate on here, so do look for an Intimidate because it's just 10% more damage, basically, right? It's very solid. And yeah, that's basically about it. Little Pride, some Shroud, yeah. For the cluster, so it doesn't really matter what you get in here. Maybe some Leech, you know, could be fine. Inspired Oppression is pretty good. Alternatively, you can also go for bow builds. I mean, for bow clusters, just get whatever's cheapest. You just primarily need the slots for these, right? Also, these nodes are actually really strong, especially on builds that hit multiple times. After the leech nerfs, you might actually need to take this, but you know, test out, see if you need it. If you don't need it, don't take it. If you do need it, obviously take it, and then drop some points from somewhere. But anyway, so this is it. This, like I've said, you know, the potentially you can hit up to 7 times this damage, so the single target can be good. And of course, you know, the bow that I have in here is achievable. Why is it not showing? So the bow that I have in here is very achievable. Just, you know, get a fracture, spam some essences, and craft on double damage. You might potentially need to reforge crit, but you know, ultimately it's not going to be that expensive. You're going to be paying like 5 divines if you're lucky with the reforge and you don't brick, right? But yep, this is the build. Obviously, there's space for you to get more damage if you want. Always better quiver, better bow, right? Mage blood if you want. I don't know, some giga jewels. It's up to you, I guess, to sort of finish this thing out. But as it is right now, this build is pretty solid, and this is what I'm gonna be starting. So, you know, we'll see how it turns out. You could also go like a Bisstack if you want. You would need to move the tree a little bit, but you know, you have another slot in here, so potentially you could go for a Bisstack as well, which, well, it is a lot of damage, right? Yeah, with the light of the shroud of the lightless. So anyway, some options, I guess. But that is it for today, and I will probably see you tomorrow with not with a bow build, obviously. But anyway, yep, that's it. Bye bye.